Listen, have you ever been either reading a book, watching a video, or either listening to a podcast, and they're interviewing somebody who was once like broke, $0, didn't have anything, in some kind of way over a period of time, whatever that period was, they either built wealth or riches. And when you think about what you're hearing logically, it just doesn't make sense how they actually did it. Well, in this video, I want to actually walk you through not just the steps, but the habits that most people, if not all, they take to get from where they are to where they want to be, and from where they were to where they currently are right now, and how you can do the exact same thing in 6 months or even less. Now, I know that might seem like a bold claim, but one thing that I really want you to take away and understand is that we don't determine our future. We determine our habits, and our habits determine our future. So I want to share a few wealth habits with you that you can implement into your life immediately. And I will say this, even before I go into what those things are, the thing that I want to tell you, and I want to encourage you, regardless to where you are financially, you could be flat broke. It's very important to understand and even believe in your heart, because even if you understand, but you don't have the belief that it's possible, then you won't even implement it, and you won't even take the necessary steps or even allow it to happen into your life because you don't really believe it. Understand and believe this: healthy money habits can lead to riches even if you don't have anything in your pocket or bank account right now. Because again, we don't determine our future, we determine our habits, and our habits determine our future. Because where you are, where I am, and where anybody else is in this world right now is a result of a series of choices that happen in the form of habits that got them there. Good or bad, it doesn't even matter. But the truth is the truth. And we can always replace habits with new ones, with improved ones. And these are things that I want to help you to implement into your life, wherever you are. Even if you're making millions of dollars, it doesn't even matter. But when you implement positive wealth habits into your life, like universal principle says, that it's only a matter of time before you get those same results. And so the one thing that I want to share with you is this: is it's very important to have an intention for your money. And it's also very important to set an intention for your money future. Because what happens is sometimes people get discouraged and they're like, man, I don't have any money, nothing's coming in. And I'll set goals and a vision, all that kind of stuff later on when I get money. And that's too late, because the greatest form of faith is preparation. So if you have the faith that you're going to have X amount of dollars one day, that faith says that you need to prepare in advance for it. So when you get it, that makes you a great steward over it. Versus if you try to become all of that once you get it, it's like you're never going to get to it, because there was never a need for it to come anyway, because you never set an intention for either you to attract it or for you to go out and make it happen and get it. And so set a money intention, have a vision for what you want your money to look like, have a vision for what you want your wealth and riches to look like even right now. And then be brutally like ferocious with this. Only give energy to the outcome you desire. When you set an intention about your money and then you only give energy to the outcome you desire, there's going to be a lot of things that you stop listening to. There's going to be things that you stop watching. There's going to be people that you stop listening to. There's going to be people that you stop being around altogether, because when you think about the outcome you desire and the energy that you're giving to these other things that takes you away from your outcome, that's going to immediately cause you to eliminate it and cut it off like cancer, because it's not getting you to your desired destination. And when you just take that one sentence, and if you don't take, I won't even say that, but if you just take this one sentence, only give energy to the outcome you desire, and set an intention for your money, that will cause you to even start looking for opportunities that maybe have not even been in your awareness prior to you setting this intention and determining in your heart and in your mind and your spirit that you're only going to give energy to the outcome you desire. Now, for the habits, it's very important for you to be smart with your spending. Now, I know that's probably elementary 101. It's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But think about it from this perspective. Most people, they spend money that they don't even have yet. And so that means that the money that they make in the future It already is accounted for. And you think about how unmotivated people are to work for money that's already spent on something that they no longer enjoy. Like it's very demotivating. And so it's very important for you to like really spend smart and think about like how much you make per hour. Like even if you're an entrepreneur, but think about it from like an hourly basis because this will actually help you to spend on a next level that most people they're not even aware of, conscious of, and just won't be on that level. But think about spending from the perspective of how much do you make per hour? And think about when you buy something, how many hours of your life is it going to take you to pay this off? And when you think about things from the perspective of life value, it calls you to spend a little bit differently. Because I know, I've said it before, maybe you've said it before as well. But when somebody, close to us, they pass away, or we hear about somebody passing away, um, or either we have a shock ourselves. It's like we look at time differently. And we tend to say tomorrow is not promised. But oftentimes we don't treat right now like tomorrow is not promised. But when you really take time seriously, you really think about tomorrow is not promised, and then you equate that to, look, I want this thing over here, but that's going to cost me 10 hours of my life that I can never get back. Think about, is whatever you want worth 10 hours of your life? Whether it's shoes or watch, whatever. It's like, think about somebody who meant the most to you that's no longer here, and what you would do to just spend 5 more minutes with that person, knowing that you can't, but if you could, what you would give up for that. And then think about you spending 10 hours of your life that you can never get back on this material item. That will cause you to spend in a way that's a lot more wiser than maybe you currently are. And I'm not trying to say that you're horrible at spending, but I'm saying, any of myself included, any of us, it doesn't matter. If we operate with that level of consciousness, no matter how good we are with spending, it's going to cause us to rise to a level that's even above that. And if we're not good with spending, it's going to cause us to still rise above whatever current level that we are. But having a consciousness and thinking about how much something costs related to your life, how many hours of your life is this costing you? That's going to cause you to spend like differently on a whole nother level. And then the other thing is this: it's very important and it's very like critical to get in the habit of making money work for you. Like so often, I mean, people just do stuff like they make money, and sometimes they don't even like what they do, but it's like the end result is them getting the money. And sometimes it's like they get the money and they don't ever allow the money to work for them like they work for the money. And one of the greatest things that you could do to get rich in 6 months is give your money a job. Just like you might have one, give your money a job and make your money work just as hard as you do. Because here's a rule of thumb. Your money should always outwork you. If you work hard for money, your money should be working way harder than you do for it. And you might say, well, Chris, how do I do that? This is where I say study investing, because I can't tell you what to invest in because I don't know like what you understand. And I would say this: when it comes to investing, never invest in anything you don't understand. It can have a million, percent return. If you do not understand it, do not invest in it. And I'll tell you, a simple place to start is just think about, what do you consume? What do you wear? Do you have an iPhone? Do you use Amazon? Do you, Netflix? Like all of those things are things that you can become a part owner in because you use them. And because you use them on a regular basis, like that's proof that you believe in it. But that's just a small place where you can actually start and allow your money to actually have a job and allow it to work for you. Because if we only work for money and never, like money never works for us, there's not enough time in a day for us to catch up with the rate of inflation right now. When you think about like how high things are going up and how fast they're going up, the hours that we work on a daily basis just making money, it's not keeping up with the pace. So it's like we have to do something else to not just keep pace, but even outpace the pace that's currently happening. And so one of the only ways that you could do that is by giving your money a job and making it work. Because even if you're not working, even if you're resting, even if you're sleeping, your money can still be working for you. And that's what's going to give you the advantage to catch up with inflation and then, potentially surpass it, if you will. But it's very critical for you to give your money a job. And I'll say this too. When you think about the wealthiest people in the world, they solve the biggest problems. And you might think like, what can I contribute? And here's the reality. There are millionaires and billionaires made every single day where this wealth was not passed down to them because they solved some kind of problem. And you can do the exact same thing. And just asking yourself, what problem can I solve today? What problem can I solve this week? That's going to cause your mind to go and search for things and problems that you can actually solve. And it's like when you think about problems that you can solve, you can get paid equivalently to that problem. Like, however painful that problem is, people are willing to pay a certain amount to get out of that pain. Like when you think about the most money that people spend, they spend money to get out of pain. Like sometimes people buy a house because they're like, man, I cannot, I hate living with my parents, or I can't stand being in this basement, or I can't stand living in the neighborhood. But either way, it's some type of pain periodically that people are trying to get out of. The reason why they spend the most money on whatever their purchases are. So when you think about what problem can you solve, that's going to put you in a different mind space than maybe you currently are, because it's going to give you an awareness that maybe you currently didn't have in terms of how you can create this other additional stream of income that might even surpass the current one that you have. And I tell you something that is really good to like help you to even get your creative juices flowing is by work in an unusual working space, like somewhere where you normally wouldn't go. If normally don't go to Starbucks, like go to Starbucks. If you normally don't go to the park, like go to the park. Like go somewhere that's unusual, because what it does is it gets you out of the regular thinking that you do. Like we don't even really understand like how much of our lives are on autopilot. And I don't know if this ever happened to you before, but it's been times where I've been driving in my car and it's 6 minutes of driving that's unaccounted for. Like I don't even know how I got from this point to this point, and it's 6 to 7 minutes in between. And it's because most of us are on autopilot and we can do things with our unconscious mind, like even being interrupted, because we do it so frequently and we do the same thing over and over again on a regular basis, so much so that when it comes to creativity, sometimes we can't even access it because what we do is not something where creativity is even needed. But when you take yourself out of the normal environment that you're in, and then you go to something where you're not really familiar with it, you don't really do this on a regular basis, now it causes you to be able to access the creativity that can only be accessed when you get into those different environments. And it's amazing some of the different things you can come up with when you get outside the norm of whatever your environment is. Now, here's the next thing that I'll say is this, and I'm sure you've probably heard this a lot, and it's a catch-22, but stop using credit cards. And I'm saying this only if you're somebody who can't handle it. Now, if you spend money on your credit card that you can't pay off at the end of the month, that's something where it's probably in your best interest to not make that purchase. Because what happens is this: there are credit cards that's like 20%, 25%, almost 30% interest rate that causes people to spend a lot more money on a purchase that they're no longer even enjoying. Like sometimes people like spend money and the credit card interest rate exceeds the fun that this person had, the enjoyment that this person had. And it's like sometimes they even forget what the experience was, but they're still paying for it because the interest rates are so high. And it's like if you don't have the money right now, unless it's like a for real true emergency, like some food or something like that, it's probably something that you should avoid until you can actually afford it. Because what happens is this: people tend to get into all kind of debt for a quote unquote fake emergency that they had in a moment that really was not an emergency, but it was really a want that they had, not a need. And then they end up regretting it later on when that credit card bill come 3 or 4 months down the line and they're stuck paying the minimum balance that's not going anywhere. And it's stuck like a rock, just continuously going up. And there's no way for them to ever get out of this debt without paying like mountains more than what it even costs because they purchased it. And when you get into this habit, like this is something that rich and wealthy people do on a regular basis. Like rich and wealthy people, they use credit cards, but they only use the extent that they can actually pay off by the end of the month because they don't carry a bill over to the next month. And here's the reality, even if somebody does carry a bill over to the next month, rich and wealthy people still have the money to pay it off. And they justify it because they're like, I can use your money cheaper than I can use mine. And if I can use your money cheaper than I can use mine, I'm going to use your money instead of my own. And that's one of the only reasons why people even like carry over credit card balance with people that are rich and poor. I mean, rich and wealthy, if you will. And so if you're somebody where, and I'll say this, most of us are, if you're somebody who really can't handle having a credit card, and when I say handle, meaning like you can't use it and pay it off by the end of the month, that's something where you want to stop using. Because when you don't have a way, you find a way. If somebody took your credit card away today and you're used to using the credit card, if you don't have it, whatever you're used to buying with it, you're going to find some other kind of way to buy it because that's a habit. And you're going to continue that habit even if this means of how that was paid for is gone. And I encourage you to do that. And I would say this, when it comes to technology, stop upgrading to the latest technology. Like we don't realize how much we are tricked and persuaded and robbed by upgrading to the next piece of technology, whether it's, iPhone or, whatever else. And it's like whatever the upgrade is, if you have the previous version and it still works, keep using it. Keep using it. Because it's like the amount you pay for that upgrade, whatever little amount that they added to it, are you really going to use that to the extent that it's worth you doing the upgrade? Or are you upgrading because they're reminding you to, and it's just a habit that every time there's an upgrade, you do it? And sometimes those habits we need to break. We need to break that we just take on suggestions that these companies that are making money off of our habits that they cause us to create, we need to break those habits and stop making them wealthy and stop going into debt and stop making our generational wealth, something that is a thing of the future that may never come because we're so focused on paying somebody else and building their generational wealth instead of our own. Because if we're being totally 100% honest, like some people, their generational wealth is in their pocket, not in the form of money, but in the form of an iPhone or Android. And sometimes, like we have to get to a level of conscience where we cut that out. Like it's time to stop making everybody else rich and wealthy except us. And it's like when we really think about like the upgrade, it's like, why are we really upgrading? Because if I don't upgrade, is my life really going to downgrade? Like, is my life really going to just be out of whack, out of order? Am I not going to be? No, you're not. No, that's not the case. And so if we just take the time to really think through some of the things that we're upgrading for that's costing us more money, because the reality is this, these upgrades cost money. And when it comes to the upgrade that costs money, most of our income is not being upgraded with the upgrade that we're paying for. And so that's causing us to be like we downgrade as a result of the upgrade. And so it's time to cut out the upgrade so that we can upgrade. So instead of upgrading your phone, upgrade your wealth, upgrade your riches, upgrade your habits. And when you do that, that's going to put you in a position that's head and shoulders over so many people. And it's going to put you head and shoulders over even the past you. And maybe things that you've done before, or maybe that, things that you didn't, even think was even possible for you, because sometimes we underestimate the things that we can accomplish in 6 months, 12 months, 5 years, because we're so focused on right now. And it's like, you want to make sure that when you get to later on, that your later self can appreciate, thanks, and even honors your past self for all of what they did to help you enjoy this future that's going to come in time. Because there's nothing like you getting to a place and you think about how your younger self puts you in this bad position, whether it's bad money health, bad mental health, bad physical health, but you want to do the opposite, because most of us have that negative experience, but there's also a positive experience as well. when we implement the right habits. And so the other thing that I want to say is this, related to upgrading, is very important for you to track your entertainment. And I'll say the biggest entertainment is now like food has become an entertainment for a lot of people where they go out to eat, to socialize. And sometimes we don't even track how much we spend on entertainment. Like even if we just keep it with food, like we won't even go into like the drinking and all of that kind of, like we'll just keep it just to food. We don't realize how much money we spend on a monthly basis just on food. And when you think about how much things have even gone up in the last 2 months, food prices have even skyrocketed more. And so when we don't pay attention to how much we're spending on food, we might think like, man, at the end of the month, like I don't have enough to pay this $600 bill, whatever that might be. But we spent 1,300 on food, but we don't think about possibly spending 1,300 on food because it's 20 here, 37 here, 21 here. Like it's nickel and dime, but it's more than just nickel and dime. But when we think about getting to the end of the month, if we were to track our spending just for 1 month, just for 1 month, if you tracked it for 1 month and saw exactly how much you spent on food, you might lose your appetite. You like, I'm not even eating no more. But it might cause you to think through how you move forward and even preparing food before you leave home, just being real. Or it's like, you know what? I don't have to go to that place that has, the premium food all the way up here, but I can go over here with the healthy food, but it's not as expensive as the other place over there. But if you just did something like that just for 1 month, like that would change your spending around entertainment altogether because now you have a level of consciousness that is connected to how much you're spending just on entertainment. And then if you go back up to the habit of thinking like, man, how much of my life is this costing me? And when you think about how much of your life this is costing you, it's like that food, that entertainment, it's not even worth it. And I'll say this, something that tricks a lot of us as well. And I see, I got tricked a whole lot probably a couple of months ago on subscriptions. Like there are so many subscriptions that most people have that we don't even use. But because they only cost $9, $14, maybe $19.95 a month, they stay up under the radar. But it's like when you calculate all of these different subscriptions that we're not using, especially when you think about the gym membership, they give you a phenomenal price on gym membership. And here's the tricky part that most people don't understand. Some of these gyms, they can only hold like 200 people at a time. They might sell 10,000. I said that right, 10,000 subscriptions to their gym, knowing that only 1% of people are going to come. Most people are going to buy these gym memberships with the greatest intentions in the world, but they're never, ever going to use it. They're never going to even step foot in some of these places to even use it. But because the price was so great, it was a promotion at the time. It's like, man, I can't pass this up. I got to lose this weight. I got to get in shape. And they have all the intentions in the world, but they never go. And so here's the reality. If you want to get in shape, if you want a gym membership, the thing that I would encourage you to do first is work out 7 days at home. Like if you work out for 7 days at home, because it's always something you could do at home. You don't really need the gym. You don't need the equipment. It might make it easier, more convenient, but you don't need it. But if you really want to go to the gym, spend 7 days at home. And if you work out for 7 days straight, let that be your gift to yourself that you can now purchase that gym membership. But if you don't work out for at least 7 days straight, then you got to start all over. Like if you really want to go to that gym, every single day you miss, you got to start all over. And then once you get to day 7 and pass it, that's when you go. Like there are so many subscriptions that we pay for that is causing us to delay our wealth and delay our riches because like these little memberships, like they're just eating away at our wealth like ants to food. You can't really see it, but over a matter of time, it's like, wow, how did this happen? And that's exactly how it works. Here's something else that's really important to understand. And I didn't even realize this until about 2 years ago. When it comes to wealthy people and rich people, they don't buy new cars. Most people that buy new cars are people that can't afford new cars, but they work at jobs where they don't like, and they justify unconsciously buying this new car because at least it makes me feel good going to a place, working for somebody I don't like, and working somewhere I don't want to be. And it just further causes people to delay getting out of the situation. It's like, look, you look good going to the plantation, but that's not where you want to be. But if you just downgrade it or avoid it buying a car, you can buy your freedom away from that place a whole lot faster. And when you buy your freedom away from that place, then at that point, you can get whatever car you want to because you're free. And when it comes to new cars, think about this. Somebody go and spend $50,000 on a brand new car. As soon as they drive it off the lot, it doesn't even have a mile on it yet. As soon as they drive it off the lot, it's instantly lost $4,000 in value. So even if you went right back to them, that same $50,000 car is not even worth $50,000 anymore. So when you think about it, is it really wise to buy a new car? It's like, yeah, it feels good. I mean, you look good temporarily, but think about this. The new car smell only lasts for so long. The newness only lasts for so long. But that car note, you talking about 5 years, 6 years, it's still with you, even though the newness has worn off. And it's like sometimes we might buy cars to make us feel a certain way, and it's like the feeling wears off, but the car payment is still coming. And it's like by the time we don't even want that car anymore, the amount that we owe on the car is not worth what the car itself is worth. And so that's where a lot of millionaires and people that are rich and wealthy come in and they buy something for maybe $20,000, where really the person that owns it, they still owe 28,000 on it. And so that's when somebody starts to become upside down, as they call it, in their payment, meaning that they trade in this car for another car and they take the negative equity from this previous car that they bought that's no longer worth how much they owe, and that balance that they still owe on it, they roll it into this new car and they start the process all over again. And negative equity just continues to build and build and build. But when you get to a point where it becomes a habit for you that if you do need a car, that you avoid buying new cars and buying cars that are maybe like 2, 3, maybe even 4 years older, that's when you start to have the better deals. You start to be in a better position, and you start to save more money that you can be using to cause that money to make more money. And the other thing that I would say is this, and this is a really big habit, because I know, like, for a lot of us, like, we want to always stay on time and integrity when it comes to paying our bills. Like, we don't want to be late paying our bills because a lot of people, they're focused on credit. Shout out to those that focus on that, but also shout out to those that just have an integrity, and when they owe somebody something, they want to pay it back. But even going with that, I want to encourage you to create a savings that you pay like a bill, just like you pay everybody else. I mean, you might pay your mortgage, your rent, your car note, whatever you pay your savings like you do and treat it like it's a bill. I mean, you could start with $100, $200, $300. Like, the amount is really irrelevant compared to the habit. Because again, we don't determine our future, we determine our habits, and our habits determine our future. And so if you create a bill and that bill is your savings, and it's like you can't touch it, and it's like you pay that every single month, just like you do everybody else, that money is eventually going to build and accumulate where you could do something phenomenal and massive with. And that could be the difference between you buying your freedom a lot earlier and you doing whatever you want to versus you staying stuck, and you driving to your plantation in style. Like, that's the difference. And here's what, like, when I say that, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, because I used to be there. So I want to be very transparent in saying that. I'm just saying that's the reality of what it is. And it doesn't matter if it's you, it doesn't matter if it's me. The reality is the reality. But it's like when you start to change your mindset, and more importantly, you change your habits, that will determine a future that's going to be brighter than the sun, that's shining brighter than anything that you can ever imagine, and is going to be in your favor. Now, here's the next thing, and this is a habit where this can get a lot of people in trouble. If you have to borrow money, and I recommend that you don't if you can at all costs, but if you have to borrow money wisely, or just borrow period wisely. Because maybe a part of borrowing, that could be even in the sense of like credit card, like that's borrowing, if you will. And sometimes, like when you borrow from a credit card, the amount that they pay you, it's not really worth the interest that you got to pay back. Sometimes people get really desperate and they put themselves in situations where they have to even borrow from like payday advance places. And it's like, man, that should be illegal. Like that should be illegal where they're taking advantage of people who are just down their luck and they're willing to do whatever and say whatever and give whatever in the future to get whatever they need right now. And unfortunately, like I know several people that actually use these payday loan places and loans that they got like years ago, they're still indirectly paying them off today because of the high interest rate. Like that's like the modern like mafia in terms of how much they're charging. And it angers me because it's only in certain neighborhoods where certain people can be taken advantage of and are taken advantage of. And it's already calculated that it's going to happen because these people, they fall into situations a lot of times because of their environment. It's not even just because of their choices, but it's because of their environment. And I'm not trying to say that people are like a victim all the time. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there are certain areas that people live in where they just don't have the same opportunities. And because they don't have the same opportunities, a lot of their pitfalls are predictable. And so when they get in a pitfall and they want to get out, guess who's there to save them, quote unquote? These payday loan places. And so I'm just saying, be wise when you borrow. And maybe it's not even one of these places at all. Maybe it's a friend or maybe it's a family member. And sometimes people will loan you money just to use it as leverage for the rest of your life. You know what I'm saying? It's like you loan somebody some money and it's like, man, you remember I loaned you that money back in 19, whatever. And it's like some money is not worth it. Like some money is too expensive. And sometimes when I say too expensive, I'm not even talking about just the money. Sometimes the emotional currency that you have to pay back for this money, it's not worth it. And that's something that where you really want to take inventory and just evaluate, is this money worth it? And some money is, but sometimes it's not. So you just want to make sure you always stay in the habit of borrowing wisely. And this is something where I kind of talked about, like the ant situation, where sometimes ants are so small that we can't see them eating something up, the hour of, the day of, but it's like when we think about like a week and we come back, it's like, man, ants ate this whole sandwich, and that's the same way it is when it comes to small expenses. And so it's very important to get in the habit of paying attention to small expenses because sometimes because it's so small, we don't pay attention to it coming out of our bank accounts. And I'll be very transparent from a marketing perspective. Sometimes people charge a very low fee on a monthly basis because they look at it as an invisible price that's never going to be cut off because this person doesn't see it. Even though it's making me money, they don't see it because it's so small that it's invisible. And there's even a term like invisible pricing. That's a real term in marketing. And so you just want to be mindful and pay attention to like small expenses that you have because they can add up to big expenses. And it's like when you pay attention to the small things, like you master the big things. And you help to keep yourself in a position where you can not only build wealth, but you can actually accelerate your riches and be in a place where you really want to be. And it's like just like the ants, for instance, like we can't see them. And what they might eat over time is a lot. Well, if we pay attention to the small expenses, and it's like we cut out certain expenses, or we cut off, or we reduce certain expenses, it's like now that money is kind of like the ant analogy, if you will, but instead of it being like eaten by the ants, it's now being placed into our wealth account or our riches account, and it starts to work for us. And I'll say this: one of the habits, and this is one of the most important habits, is read and study money as much as you can. Because a lot of us, I'll say for myself, like I don't have wealthy people in my family. Wealth was never passed down to me. I didn't have people just like talking to me about what you do with money. I had a lot of people tell me, don't do this, like don't mess your credit up and don't. But I didn't have anybody instruct me on what to do. And I learned a lot of what I know now based on reading, watching different videos, playing, Robert Kiyosaki's board game, like way back 20 plus years ago. And I read everything that I could. And I tell you this, it's so amazing that when you read, like you literally become a student of the author. Even though like you might not even know this person, but you literally become like a student, like they become your mentor for that time of your reading. And it's like when you can, because I always tell people, if you can buy a book and you can get a lot of knowledge out of it, you got the better end of the deal, even if that book was $50. Because if somebody writes a book and they put 20 years of their life in this book and you only paid them $50, it's like you got a 20-year download for $50. That's a discount all day. And it's like if you can take what somebody else did, where they failed, where they succeeded, and you can like miss the pitfalls, but you can apply the successes to your life, like that's a win-win all day. And reading does that. And it's like if you don't know anything about investing, you don't know where to invest, you don't even have let's start there with the mindset to invest. It's like reading helps to do all of those things. And there's so many different books that I could recommend that I'm going to resist recommending any except just one, because I think like this book is foundational. It is like one of the books that if there was a money Bible, like this would be the money Bible, or at least in the book of the money Bible, and that's Rich Dad Poor Dad. Because it's one of the books that is very simple to understand, like it's written at like a third, fourth grade level, and it teaches principles that are applicable like throughout generations. Like that book was written decades ago, but the principles in that book is still applicable today. So again, there's tons of books that I would recommend, but I would definitely start with that one if you haven't read it already. Like that's one that will literally change your whole thought process, and it'll cause you to spend your money differently, and it'll cause you to look differently at how you even make money. But if you institute these habits in your life, you can literally become rich in 6 months. And hear me out. We sometimes underestimate what we can do in 6 months. And sometimes we overestimate in what we can do in a lesser amount of time. But the key thing is habits. The key thing is consistency. And you might think, how will I ever get to where you're saying I'm going to get in 6 months? By starting today. Starting today will get you to where you want to be and not putting it off until later. Because if you don't take action right now, today, there is an 86% chance that when you cut this video off, you would do absolutely nothing. And so I want to encourage you to take action, because generations are depending on you, your happiness, your freedom, like all of your abundance is waiting on you on the other side of implementing these habits into your life and getting the riches and the wealth that's really your birthright to have them. Because if other people can have them, why can't you? And it's not something that is just good for you to have. Wealth and riches is something that you're supposed to have. And hear me out. I'm not saying that you're a bad person or a negative person or irresponsible person if you don't have wealth. I'm not saying that, because sometimes I think wealth is coming. It's just not here yet, or it's already here, but it just is not in our visibility to actually see it. And so when it comes to being wealthy, being rich, and having a lot of money, and really getting to a place where you have freedom, because that's really what it's about. It's not even really about the money, but it's about the freedom. But when you get to that place, you're going to be so thankful and so happy of all of the actions that you took prior to getting to that place, and the actions that you did take to get you to that place. And it all starts with habits, because we don't determine our future. We determine our habits, and our habits determine our future. Listen, if you've gotten any value out of this whatsoever, please share. Please hit that like button. And if this is your first time here, or you've been here before but you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Because my thought process and my mission is to give you as much valuable information as I can as relates to getting wealthy, getting riches, and making money faster. Because I'm fortunate, and I'll say this: I am fortunate. I'm not bragging, but I'm fortunate to be in rooms with people that are making a whole lot more money than I'm making, and by way of that, I learned so much from them that I didn't know before. And I know for a fact that I'll just say, like a lot of people that I love, they'll never be able to get into these rooms because of one reason or another. Sometimes it's not just about money. Like sometimes it's invitation only, and they just might not be in these rooms for whatever the case may be. But just because they can't be in the room doesn't mean that whatever happened in the room can't happen for them by way of information shared, by way of being at the table and being in the room. And that's one of the things that I want to do because somebody shared things with me that got me to where I am. And it's like, had it not been for that information, I would still be where I was. And I'm so thankful to God that I'm not there. And so it's like, if I can help somebody to get from where they are to where they want to be because somebody helped me and I want to help as many people the same way, that's my mission. That's what I want to do. So if you got anything from this video, and if there's anybody who you think can benefit from any of the habits that were shared in this video, please share them with them. And if this is you, for the first time, please consider subscribing and hit that like button.